Hello, this is Frank Donaldson with the Institute for School and Parish Development in New Orleans, Louisiana. For the past 2 years, I've had the wonderful opportunity of working with Mount DeSales Academy, especially as we take a look at getting ready for this capital campaign, as well as working with the advancement team, as well as working with Sister Mary Thomas and the board. It has and continues to be a wonderful experience. Where we are right now, as you probably know, based upon viewing this recording, is we are in the middle of the Pacesetter component of the capital campaign. And so what we'd like to do over the next 20 or 30 minutes is to work with you and share with you a training video that we have already shown to many people in terms of how we are inviting people to participate in the campaign. Very important campaign for Mount DeSales Academy, and one that thus far, here as we look at the beginning of October 2017, is off to a wonderful start, in some cases exceeding our expectations. But as with all things, let's start with a prayer. It is the campaign prayer. And so let's begin. Let us remember we're in God's holy presence. Dear St. John Paul the Great, advocate of youth, help us to fulfill our potential with passion and grace. Actor and poet, help us to dedicate our creative works to the renewal of culture. Defender of human dignity, help us to develop and offer our gifts at the service of humanity. Friend of the Blessed Mother, intercede with her for this capital campaign. May the beauty of feminine strength and ingenuity flourish on these grounds, planted in our tradition and nurtured by our heart. Amen. As we take a look at the campaign, there are a number of pieces we would like to cover in this presentation. Obviously, we'll take a look at the overall organizational chart. We'd like to cover some key responsibilities, but the main thing that I would like to work with is in Roman numeral 4, what we call the 1-2-3 method of making it work. Now, as you view this particular presentation, hopefully you have a copy of the Pacesetter training packet in front of you, because as you'll notice, some of the slides I will be referring to specific pages in the training packet. In terms of the campaign, the way we are set up organizationally is the Mount DeSales Academy Advancement Team is one of the outstanding groups of people that I've worked with in my 27 years in Catholic school development. So we have the advancement team that we have been working with for the past almost 2 years. They are really the leaders, along with Sister Mary Thomas, of providing all the backroom work, all the logistics work, and making sure we cross the T's and dot the I's. ISPD is the company that I work with, Institute for School and Parish Development. Then we have our campaign operational chairs, who have been with us now for almost a year and are doing a fantastic job in terms of helping work this campaign to its fullest extent. Those three boxes at the top form what we call the executive committee, and we meet on a regular basis to make sure that the campaign continues in terms of a positive direction. The different phases of the campaign, first is the Pacesetter phase, where we are right now, and there is the special gift division, and these are gifts over a 5-year pledge period that people are invited to consider in terms of 6- and 7-figure giving. The lead gift division is between $25,000 and $100,000. The major gift division is between $10,000 and $25,000. And then the leadership gift division, which is primarily board members and faculty and staff members who do not fit into special, lead, or major, these are gifts of all sizes. Everyone that is invited to participate is invited to consider the 3 gifts of prayer and service, and obviously financial participation. In 2018, we will be moving into the public phase of the campaign, and that will be the parent division, the alumni division, the business community division, and the friends division. So as we look at the organizational structure, and that organizational structure, you can see it in a little bit different form, but that organizational structure is on page 2 of your training packet. So you can see on page 2 the campaign leadership, you can see the Pacesetter division phase, and then you can see the public phase. So basically the same concept. In terms of the folks that are working with the campaign, there are primarily the Gold Medal Committee. That is the team that actually works here with the lead gift division. That lead gift division that you see, there's a Gold Medal Committee that works there. With the major gift division, there is a Blue Ribbon Committee that works with the major gift division. In the Pacesetter phase, those are the 2 major teams. The Special Gift Division does not have a team. We are working with some op chairs and with the division chairs and with Sister Mary Thomas and the Advancement Office in terms of inviting those 6 figure plus gifts. The Leadership Gift Division is primarily working with the chairs and the op chair mentors, because all of the operational chairs mentor a division. And so the main 2 teams are in the lead gift division, and we're calling that the Gold Medal Committee. And in the major gift division, we're calling that the Blue Ribbon Committee. So just for way of clarification. So as we look at the next slide of these teams working primarily in lead and major gift divisions, this is obviously what a lot of the training is going toward in terms of folks that are going to be working with those teams, as well as those that have attended training. This also could be just a wonderful review. So we're asking those team members to be positive ambassadors for the campaign, attend several meetings over a 3 or 4 month period of time. One is the training session, then some organizational meetings and check-in meeting, being able to select 5 or 10 or more families from a list, and you would be responsible for those families. And primarily, the responsibility is inviting those families to participate in the campaign. And this is usually via a home or a school reception. And so usually the biggest thing we have asked us in our 20-something years of working with all this is, do I have to ask for money, and how much time will it take? And so therefore, you can see in number 2 on the slide, the time involved. And you can also see as you take a look at number 4, we really are inviting you to get people to receptions. You do not ask unless it's something that you really want to do, which would be great, but we're not asking you to ask people for money. We're asking you to invite people to receptions, and at that time, Sister Mary Thomas, someone from the Advancement Office, one of the operational chairs, or a couple of the operational chairs will be there to invite the gifts to the campaign. So the responsibility is making sure you invite the families to participate in the campaign in a home reception and getting them there. Making your own gifts to the campaign before you invite others, and then consistently communicating to make sure that, let's say you have 10 families for whom you are responsible, making sure that you send in the information, which we'll cover in this training session, and that you communicate with your division chairs and the campaign office to make sure that we get those packets into the hands of the people for whom you are responsible. So really, as you look at all of this, those are the 6 major things that a team member in the lead gift division and a team member in the major gift division is asked to do. The main thing we're going to be looking at is these number of slides on the 1, 2, 3 method of making it work. As we always say, you know, the 1, 2, 3 method of making it work really is, some of this is very kind of no-brainers in a way. And this actually begins on page 4 of your training packet. But basically, number 1 is something that more than likely you've already done, and that is to accept the invitation to become a vital part of the campaign leadership. Number 2 is to understand the case and the reasons why this campaign is so important to Mount the Sales Academy. And if you have had the opportunity to view the video and see the video, you understand how this has come to life. And if you have had the opportunity to go through your own packet of information about the campaign, then obviously you can see why it is so important. Understand the organizational structure, and we covered that in a previous slide. Understand how we will invite gifts. We will invite gifts through personal visits. And a lot of that's going to be done with Sister Mary Thomas visiting with people, operational chairs visiting with people, advancement officers visiting with people. But then a lot in terms of your involvement in many cases would be with home receptions and school receptions, where your responsibility is to get the people for whom you're responsible to that reception. And then when someone invites their giving, after that invitation, you hand them their packet of information. So the packet delivery. And then in some cases where we cannot get in touch with someone, there would be a packet drop-off, and that usually is done in the public phase more so than any. And step number 5 is understanding the meaning of the word visit. Because when we say visit and we ask you to make a visit, that doesn't mean necessarily a one-on-one visit. That does mean that you are going to be eyeball to eyeball, and there's a great conversation that is being had. So that could be a reception at school, that could be a home reception, that could be a one-on-one, that could be a luncheon meeting or whatever, but that's what we mean by the word visit. That's why we have quotes around it. So number 6 is attend the training session, and you're viewing the presentation now. Ask any and all questions, and we'll have the last slide in the presentation today. We'll have email addresses for you to get in touch with a number of people in case you have questions. Meet with your leaders and look at a list of people that fall into your gift division. Of course, we just discussed this. We're going to want you to make sure you feel comfortable in the list that you will be responsible for. We like to have, most team members have anywhere between 7, 8, 9, 10 families for whom they would be responsible. And you'd want to get the necessary materials, and those materials have already been printed. They're already ready. And the campaign office, that's the advancement office, they will make sure you have all of that. In terms of that, the material, you'll have pertinent information about each family to get in contact with them. You'll have their campaign packet, and you'll have report forms that will come back to the campaign office. In terms of your giving, please make sure before you invite others, please make sure that after careful consideration and prayer, you're going to want to meet with either your division chair, Sister Mary Thomas, your op chair, but you're going to want to meet and make your own gifts to the campaign before you invite others. That is really important, because what we do find is that when people have already gotten involved in the campaign, it's much easier. They feel more comfortable in inviting others. So we ask you to do that. There will be a letter that will go out that will say that you will be getting in touch with a family to invite them to a reception. So we just want to check with the campaign office to make sure that is going out. And then you're going to want to call and make the appointment for the visit. And in the training packet on pages 5, 6, and 7, there are different scenarios that we give, and they're really, really simple. One we call the easy appointment that is on page 5, and you can read that. The second is the difficult appointment, and I'm going to come back to that one. And then the third is the really tough appointment, where someone doesn't really want to talk with anyone because maybe they had a bad experience at Mount to Sales Academy. And so there's language there in the training packet to handle all 3 of those. I don't really think you're going to get much from scenario 3, but you may get scenario 2, and that's the person that would say, listen, we're busy. I know you're busy. Why don't you just put the packet in the mail? Oh, we live in the same neighborhood. Just drop it off on the porch. And of course, that is something that is we hear a lot of. Is there a foolproof method of response? No, there really is not. However, we have found this to be this response to be something that people will understand. So if I've asked Joe, to a reception, and he tells me, look, Frank, just drop the packet off, mail it to us, whatever. My response, that has worked could be, Joe, certainly I can do that. Of course I can put it in the mail to you, but let me share with you what Sister Mary Thomas has asked my wife and I to do. We are responsible for 8 families, and so we have 8 packets of information that have been especially prepared for each family. And so Sister has asked us to invite our 8 families to receptions, and in terms of those receptions, we'd like to have you come, and we'd like you to see the video. We'd like to share with you information about the campaign. People from Mountain to Sales Academy will be there to answer all questions, and we'd like to personally give you your packet. And so with that in mind, what I'd like to do when we come back in a meeting in about 6 weeks back to Mountain to Sales Academy, I'd like to be able to say to Sister Mary Thomas, we've been able to visit personally with every single one of our 8 families and say pretty much mission accomplished. So if we could work a time to make that happen, here are dates of several receptions at Mountain to Sales Academy, and we're hoping that one of these would be convenient for you and your spouse. So that is, you know, one way to handle that. But that is all on pages 5 and 6 and 7. So I just wanted to call your attention to that. Next is to go for the visit, which is usually a reception. And as I just said, where Mountain to Sales Academy leaders and campaign leaders are present to work with the people who attend. And basically a visit is going to start off with socializing, with welcoming. Then usually there's going to be an outline of what we're going to be talking about. Then usually the video is shown. Usually questions are entertained and answers are given, and you'll have people at these receptions who can answer all these questions. The invitation is extended. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then hand out materials and go over the letter of intent. That's your responsibility. So if you're sitting there and 2 of your families are there at that reception, then after the invitation, when whoever is inviting is finished, then he or she would say, let's take a look at the campaign packet. The couple who invited you here this evening has your packet of information that they're going to give to you now. And then you'll hand them their packet. It's a pocket folder. And then the person in charge will go over the information in the packet and obviously refer to the letter of intent, which has all the different ways that people can become involved. One of the things we like to say is to remind 10 to 12 days, if possible, sometimes 2 weeks, but certainly within 10 to 14 days to please respond, remind in terms of getting that letter of intent in. Now, what the campaign office will be doing is they'll be sending an alphabetized list, usually every week or every other week, of the people who have handed in their letter of intent. Obviously, no amounts or no what type of gift or anything like that. That is all confidential. But the list of the names, an alphabetized list of the names, so you'll know if the families that you're responsible for have handed in their letter of intent. Then, in the reception, we'll close it out with a social. Begin with a social, end with a social. So in terms of that, you know, this is just kind of going through, once again, that visit outline. I like to just kind of reiterate what it is we're asking people to do. I think it's important as you look at that invitation to participate that unless you feel comfortable doing that, we're not necessarily asking you to be the one to do the invitation, okay? So one of the things that we like to call to people's mind is what really makes for effective visits and effective invitations. And as you look at that, there's kind of an inverted pyramid, so to speak, an inverted triangle, so to speak, and that inverted triangle is on page 11 of your training packet. So dealing with the most effective way to get responses, obviously eyeball to eyeball. This is what Sister Mary Thomas and a few others are doing right now, where they're meeting one-on-one or an op chair and Sister Mary Thomas are meeting with people, small group receptions, large group receptions, school presentations like we just got finished doing it with the faculty and staff and the board, you know, and then pocket folder drop-off if necessary, and then pocket folder mailed if necessary. But notice that is the least effective. So we like to call your attention to this inverted triangle and let you see what that's all about. Now, we find, too, in terms of inviting people's participation, there are 2 proven ways that we have seen that have been very successful. One is what we call the direct invitation. And the direct invitation is on page 13 of your training packet. Now, this is when there is an amount that has been predetermined. In other words, quite possibly this family or this individual has been interviewed in the financial feasibility study, or they have indicated that they have a very strong belief in the campaign and the school. They are excellent annual givers. The invitation is usually with Sister Mary Thomas and with an op chair, maybe one other person visiting with the person, usually in their home, at the office, or at the school. But once again, this direct invitation is something where a direct amount is invited. For example, where someone, when it came time to invite financially, then the person doing the invitation would say to Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, we'd like for you to consider a gift of $10,000 a year, every year for the next 5 years, or a total gift of $50,000. So as you look at this, sometimes also the direct invitation can also be a specific range where we would like for you to consider a gift in that range of $40,000 to $50,000 over a 5-year period. It is direct, it is direct. But the key here is that this amount, this range, has been determined through prior conversations, feasibility study interviews, history of giving, or a very strong belief in the school. The second proven way, and this is on pages 14 to 16, and this is just sample language, is what we call the pyramid invitation. And this is effective in the lead gift division and the major gift division when you do not have a good read on necessarily what a person or a family could give. And we just share this. You're 95% of you are not going to be doing this, but we wanted to share with you what is being said and how it's being said. And so the primary deal here is that you're going to be, whoever is doing this is going to show different tiers on this pyramid. And, this pyramid is right over here after page 15 in your packet, and you can see that it's on page 16. So let's say I was inviting, in the major gift division, I was inviting people to consider a gift in this range. And so that invitation is, and you can read all this in the packet, but I just wanted to share with you, if I was in a reception and there were 4 families sitting there that were major gift potential, that we felt based upon primarily past giving history, then that invitation would go something like this. As you can tell in viewing the video, and as we can see with the questions that are being asked, this is indeed a really important time in Mount DeSales Academy history. What an exciting campaign, and also, as we have said, just so far, the campaign is right on track and very exciting in the responses we're getting. We would like to invite you here tonight, we'd like to invite you to consider 3 gifts. One would be the gift of prayer. There is a campaign prayer card. In fact, we begin the reception with that prayer card that quite possibly you could help with the prayer of the campaign by saying the prayer every day. Maybe you could attend a mass, extra mass once a month. Maybe you could pray the rosary. Whatever your prayerful gift could be, we really invite you to do that. The other gift we're inviting is the gift of service. And in terms of the gift of service, that would be where quite possibly as we move to the public phase, you may want to help us in the alumni division, or help us in the parent division, or help us in the friend division or business community division, maybe stuff packets, maybe be responsible for delivering packets to families, maybe being part of an alumni phone outreach, whatever it may be. But we do invite you to consider that gift of service. Third, obviously, is the gift of financial participation. And what we would like you to do, we would like for you to consider over a 5-year period a gift to this campaign between $10,000 and $25,000 over the next 5 years. So, for example, if you were going to consider a $25,000 gift, that would be $5,000 a year every year for the next 5 years. Obviously, with 10,000, it will be $2,000 a year every year for the next 5 years. But what we're asking is your consideration of that range. So, really, in terms of what we are inviting people to do, three things: the gift of prayer, the gift of service, and the gift of financial participation, with the suggested range that we ask you to consider between $10,000 and $25,000. Once again, this decision is all in your hands. We're going to ask you to think about it, to discern, to pray over it, and we're asking that you please try and return this letter of intent that we're going to hand you in a minute or two, that you return this to us within the next 2 weeks. So please, hopefully you'll give consideration to all three gifts, and thank you so much for doing that. Let's take a look at the packet now. In fact, the people that invited you are going to share with you the packet of information. So that is the invitation in terms of what we call the pyramid invitation. So as we continue along, you then would leave the letter of intent, which is in the packet, with the return envelope. And what we suggest is you put a fluorescent sticky note of the date that this sealed letter of intent is due into the campaign office. So if you're visiting with someone, let's say on November 10th, then maybe you go ahead and put November 20th or November 24th, on a sticky note, and put that on their letter of intent so they can know that you would like to get that back in within 10 to 14 days. Fill in the visitor information sheet, which is on page 19, and we'll look at that in a minute, and email that back to the campaign office, and I'll have that email address on that slide. Follow up if the person or couple wants additional information. Please do that. And then after 10, 12 days, maybe 14 days, check to make sure that the LOI, that stands for letter of intent, has been mailed or handed back into the office. If they need a follow-up call, then please make that follow-up call and once again, see if they have any questions about about the invitation or about the campaign. The visitor information sheet, once again, is a piece that is important, because with the visitor information sheet, this is what you would email back to Jenny, and you see Jenny's name at the bottom and her email address. So this is on page 19 of your training packet. The form looks a little bit different, but just to save space on the slide. So you'd put your name, who you're responsible to, and your division, and then the name of the people that you're visiting or responsible for, the connection to the school. Maybe you put 11th grade parent, key information, whatever that may be. Maybe daughter plays basketball or whatever. Results, very supportive of the campaign, and will participate. We're not looking under results to say anything like they're going to give X amount of money. That's not what the results piece. And then if they have any suggestions or comments, they can use the back of the letter of intent. The other piece, as we look at it, in terms of continuing on, is to attend. There'll be a check-in meeting for you to come and just kind of check in, and I'll show you what form to bring for that check-in meeting. Complete delivery of all your packets by the date established by the campaign leaders. And then for your check-in meeting, bring your scorecard, but there'll be a wrap-up meeting where you can hand the scorecard in. Here's what the scorecard looks like. This is the date, your name, reports to what division. And then you'd have in the left-hand column, who are the people you're responsible. Visit scheduled means that this is the date of that visit, usually a reception. Visit made means they showed up. Materials given. Did you do a follow-up call? What date? Is the letter of intent in? Comments. Recall means you've tried and tried and tried and tried and tried, and no one answers the phone, and you cannot get a response. So once again, that becomes important to recall that packet, and then quite possibly we may redistribute that in the public phase of the campaign. But that scorecard piece, that in your training packet, that's on page 20. So you'll and that's for you. That's something you'll hand in, at the end of the campaign. If we do a check-in meeting, you can bring it and use it as your scorecard, so to speak. Now, there are some other reading materials in the packet. I just want to refer you to them. The prerequisites to visiting, and that's on page 8. and you can see what those are. This comes from a book that a friend of mine, Sister Mary Tracy, wrote in regards to the visit, in which you're inviting your people to come to a reception. There's some special gifts, do's, and don'ts on page 9 of the training packet, and I'm not going to read to you, but you can see what they are in terms of as you talk to people, just in casual conversation about the campaign. And then on also continuing on with special do's and don'ts, making sure that people are given time to pray and discern over their gift. Then there are what we call visitation cripplers, and that is on page 10. And there's a list of these cripplers that we see that when things do not go well, this is usually the reason why. And so, those are kind of quote unquote no-brainers. And the number 10 is the one I always call attention to, that a crippler is usually trying to do all of this via phone, email, or mail. There's a little visitor reminder list on page 18, and you can see some of those pieces. Like if you're at a reception, we want you to start with the campaign prayer that I began the training session with today. And then once again, you can see this list that is on page 18. And some really good, just last minute information that we want you to be aware of. Always a good idea to write a little thank you note after the visit, things like that, and kind of let you know what we want with that. Okay? So in terms of this, if you have any questions, these are the email addresses that you certainly can email anybody. You can email Beth, you can email Claire, you can email Jenny. They're all in the advancement office at Mount DeSales Academy, and they certainly can answer any question that you would have about the campaign. If you want to email me as the campaign consultant, that is my email address, and I usually get back within 24 hours. So please feel free. And in terms of questions, any questions you may have, because we certainly want you to feel comfortable with this. So that wraps up the little training piece. Hopefully this has been helpful to you. If you have any questions, please let us know. The campaign continues to move along in a very positive manner. And obviously we're excited about the early returns. Feel that everyone, op chairs, division chairs, obviously the advancement team, Sister Mary Thomas, the teams that are being assembled, just doing a bang-up job. What a great place to support. What a very special place to support. And as I've often said in working with Mount DeSales Academy, I've been doing this now going on 28 years. And I certainly see Mount DeSales Academy as one of the top 5 special places with a special feel, with a special culture, with just a wonderful opportunity for young women to develop and grow and really become the community leaders of tomorrow. And it's a pleasure to work with so many of you, and we're looking forward, obviously, to a very successful campaign. So thank you so much, and hopefully this has been helpful for you. And I'm sure we can also send this PowerPoint to you if you need it, but all of this is in your training packet. Thank you so much for being involved. God bless.